So you've done your research, watched some reviews and decided to pick up Stellaris only to load into your first game and be completely lost on how to get started. If this sounds familiar to you, then stick around till the end of this video because I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to get started in any game of Stellaris, whether it's your first or 100th time around the galaxy. So once you load into the galaxy, there are a bunch of actions you want to take before you even unpause the game. While it can vary depending on your origin, most of the time you have a planet, a small fleet, as well as a science and construction ship. The planet should be fine for a little while, and you won't need that fleet immediately, so we're going to ignore that for now and focus on the other stuff. The construction ship should immediately set to work building any mining stations in the system, which you can queue up manually, or just set it to auto build, but I'd go with the former to make sure that you're getting minerals online first, as they are a lot more important right now. The science ship you should get immediately surveying and heading to the map screen. You can either pick a route for it to take or set it to auto survey. I'd again go for manual for the first couple of surveying to go towards any system that has a planet so you can get early expansion as soon as possible. Aside from ships, you'll also need to set up your first research projects, and I normally pick these options which increase research output to give my science a boost from day one. If you see anything like this which increases pop output, then also prioritize that for extra early income. Now you can unpause the game and let it play out for a little bit as your ships move towards their queued jobs. Pretty quickly, a few things are going to happen that require your attention. You'll get enough unity to choose a tradition, and there are for sure some better choices than others for the early game. I generally go for Discovery as it has an option to increase survey speed, but Expansion is another great choice for making a lot of stations and planets faster and cheaper than normal. Once you finish a tree, you'll also need to choose an Ascension perk, and I almost always go for Interstellar Dominion first, so I can get my early expansion done far cheaper. You should also build up your stockpile of alloys and have enough to make more ships. Unless you need to build colony ships, which require 200, I'd aim to build these as soon as possible early on to maximize progress, and the best way to do that is with science ships. Aim to have 3 to 4 ships in the first few years of the game, and set all but one to auto survey to uncover as much of the map as possible. The one left behind should set to work on another thing you'll no doubt notice by now: anomalies. These are automatically found when surveying new systems and can be researched by the surveying scientist, but unless this is a very easy one that will be completed in a few seconds, I generally advise against this since it will massively slow down surveying speed. Instead, use this last science ship to chase your other ships around researching these anomalies. Doing this can net you a ton of bonuses like extra resources in systems, progress on technologies, and much more. Sadly, at the moment there isn't a way to automatically tell a ship to seek anomalies in your borders, so you'll have to pick and choose which they do, but it's not going to be in every system, so it shouldn't be too much to manage. With all this exploring, it's also inevitable that sooner or later you're going to run into some other empires and have to go through first contact proceedings with them. At some point there'll be a pop-up asking you what you want your protocol to be, and while each has a fairly complex explanation, to keep it simple, it's basically, I want to be friends with everyone I meet, I'm not too sure I want to be friends with everyone, or I'm actively seeking to take down everyone in my path, so pick your playstyle accordingly. Other than that, first contact is fairly straightforward. You just click on the icon and assign an envoy, and over time you'll have pop-ups on the left that tell you any progress has been made. Once you complete the first contact, you can choose how you want to greet the new empire, and again, it's those 3 options from earlier, but now with this faction specifically. After this, you can interact with them from the contact screen and choose to take part in diplomacy or espionage. This all really depends on your empire and what you want to do, but if you want to make friends, assign an envoy to improve relations, and if you plan to take them out, then assign an envoy to set up a spy network is a better option. If you're going for friendship, over time you can offer more deals like embassies, trade, research, and even migration, which is always great for colonizing more planets. When spying, it's a little more subtle with a choice of many missions which will net you more intel on the Empire so you can see what their power is relative to yours, cause disruption on their planets and systems, and all sorts of mischief to participate in. Coming back to your own empire, you're going to want to expand your borders early on, even if you plan on building tall later. Have your construction ship build star bases over the best systems connected to your capital to make for the least influence cost possible. And if you're wondering what makes a system good, literally just if it has a lot of resources or habitable planets. Don't feel the need to claim every system. As long as you have a connection to your borders, the influence cost will remain the same, and you can always come back to fill in the gaps later if you have the resources to spare. Also, I'd focus on using one construction ship to expand your borders and build another, which should set to auto build to get all the resources online in systems you already own. This ensures you keep expanding quickly early on without missing out on a ton of extra income. If you claim any systems with habitable planets, you should also aim to get them colonized as soon as possible, and for this you'll want to use the expansion planner. Hit F5 or click on it from the menu, tick the colonizable box, and sort by habitability to make things easier. Click on the planet you want to colonize and presumably the one species you have at the time, choose name, hit OK, and the ship will be built and sent to colonize automatically without any more work needed from you. As far as managing and developing planets, it's a fairly complex mechanic in itself, and I've actually made a video about it if you want more details, but in the interest of keeping this as beginner friendly as possible, we'll go for the easiest option: automation. Once your planet is finished being colonized, you'll want to enable automation and pick a designation, and you should choose one based on what the planet has to offer and what you need. Say your planet has a lot of slots for industrial districts, then the industrial designation is a good pick for extra resources from those districts. When automation is enabled, it'll understand that this means you want it to build industrial districts and things that work well with them. So over time, you'll see it build up to your specifications, as well as keeping your planet relatively stable. You can enable automation on your capital, but you can't pick a designation, which will kind of make it a little all over the place in terms of building. Ideally, you should just manually build your capital to avoid this, but when you're starting out, you should be just fine to automate, but just make sure you don't avoid learning planet management later. After setting up all your automation, you'll just need to hit F4 or click on the Planets and Sectors menu and set up deposits into the automation stockpile. I like to set up monthly deposits, so I have around 30 minerals and energy hitting my main income, but you can move this around later on if you find yourself having too many or too few resources in stock. Finally, remember the fleet we mentioned way back at the start. From the beginning of the game, you're going to want to go into the fleet manager and max out the size using your corvettes. Then anytime you have a surplus of alloys that you might go and spend for anything else, just hit reinforce when you have the fleet selected to slowly fill it up. You hopefully won't be doing too much warring this early on, but it still can't hurt to have a fleet, if for nothing else but to clear out NPC swarms that are blocking your sign ships. Just remember when doing this to check their fleet power against your own, as losing an entire fleet this early can really sting. And that's just about everything you need to know when starting any new game in Stellaris, but if you're looking for even more information about the game and how it works, then check out this video for my complete beginner's guide.